Thank you so much. So this is the NACAA Horticulture and Turfgrass Committee meeting. We usually do this at the AMPIC, but this year we're going to be doing it online here today. So we do need a record of everybody in attendance. So as you're logging on, if you'll put your name and state in the chat. I'd like to thank the two committee members that I see on here right now, Danny Lauderdale from the Southern region and Jenny Rosenkrantz from Maryland, so the Northeast region. And hopefully we'll be getting a few more of our committee members on there. And then thank you all for taking some time out of your schedule and meeting with us so our committee can do the best that we can do. And then we also have Andy West on. He will be a new region for the West region for the NACAA Horticulture and Turfgrass Committee starting after this year's AMPIC. So I don't know if it would be useful, maybe somebody can chime in. Each year we do an annual committee workshop report and plan of work form, and that's really what we talk about. So I can share that form if you think that it would be helpful to see that as we're going through it, or I can just read the questions, which is how we typically do it. When we're live. But I will just mention that the Horticulture Committee meets probably every other month. The committee members I already introduced, Danny and Jenny, but we have Heather from Ohio State and Linda from Washington. And as I mentioned, she'll be rolling off and Andy will be rolling on. This year we did host a 365 webinar about our pre-tour. We're excited to have 25 people joining us on the Dallas pre-tour, and that is a bit higher than we have been having. So we're happy about that. We're also happy we have a sponsor, Bear Crop Science, is sponsoring us, and we will also have a super seminar at AMPIC and 13 horticulture presentations in Dallas. We will host another 365 webinar this fall, so be sure to be watching for that. And maybe we can also pick another webinar to do throughout the year. So if you're just joining us and you've not put your name and state in the chat box, if you'll please do that. Jenny is keeping up with our minutes and she would appreciate having that in the chat box. So for our committee goals for the upcoming year, we mentioned that we will have a 365 webinar in the fall. We also discussed hosting maybe a 365 webinar on how to write a horticulture abstract that will be selected to present. As I mentioned, horticulture gets the most abstracts out of any of the committees. So it is a tough competition to get selected to present. So we thought that maybe if we make sure that folks know exactly what we're looking for, that would help and make sure that we have the best presentations. We've also been told we will probably only get 10 presentations next year. So we will, it will even be more competitive. And there is limited space for a super seminar. So we've been lucky to have super seminars for the past several years. that will be a more competitive process too. So if some of you that are on have ideas of a stellar super seminar, make sure that we get to know that information, so we can make sure we're as competitive as possible. And again, as you're logging in, if you can put your name and state in the chat, that will help for our record keeping. So what other goals do we have for next year? We probably will also do a pre-tour in Montana. There's a couple different ways we can do that. We can fly into Billings and stay near Billings, or we could fly into maybe like Bozeman and then travel to Billings. So we'll talk more maybe about that, but any other goals that you would like to see the Horticulture Committee do for the 24-25 year? Don't be shy, you can unmute.
I don't really exactly remember this, but I noticed from last year's we had continued to try to make tracks for presentations. And I assume that was kind of like maybe like landscape or fruit and vegetable or something like that. I don't really recall that, but I know that I recall some conversations about it. I don't remember exactly what we discussed, but um I think that's what it was, to try to make it um so that our presentation topics didn't maybe jump around so much. Am I remembering that correctly?
When we had a lot of concurrent sessions all happening at one time, which was good and bad. We had obviously more people presenting, but we had to divide up between 3 rooms. It was a lot easier to do those tracks. So, like a fruit and vegetable track, a homeowner, master gardener track, and then maybe general other horticulture track. So what I did this year, and it may or may not have been a way to do this, is I did try to keep light things together. But what happens then is somebody's a voting delegate, and that's when the presentations are. So then things get moved around. And then I also try to put our highest rated presentations, what I considered maybe a prime spot. So maybe not the very first thing in the morning or the very last thing in the afternoon. Since, I wanted to make sure, since they got the highest ratings, that, they had a good group of people in the room. So now that we're not having concurrent sessions so much, it's hard to do the tracks, but I do try to put things together, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Cindy, this is Minda. Is it possible for us to kind of ask for a theme or that could go across all of them? I work with all sides of this. So what I would really love for us to touch on is something along the lines of resilience and mediation. Something like that, for the unpredictability that it's all across the nation right now for climate changes, and help us come up with some folks to talk about maybe breeding initiatives, breeding varieties, and maintenance stuff like irrigation aspects, or things that could be looked at to mediate some of this stuff, as well as pest management, because it's kind of changing the game for all of us.
I don't know if we could ask that for the abstracts, but I do believe that our webinar that we're hosting in this fall hopefully will address some of those topics. And Of course, I'm not good at this, but maybe Heather or Danny can look that up. I believe our speaker is from Georgia. It might be South Carolina, and I think it's in September. So if one of you might be able to find that date, and maybe you don't know the speaker's name either, at least we could put that out there so you can hold that date, Minda. Any other goals or things that you think that maybe we should be focusing on? And there might be a way too that can be incorporated some in our pre-tour in Montana. Um, whether it be a certain site or a certain professor or something like that. It could even be, something for the super seminar. Getting a good keynote speaker on that.
Cindy, I have the date for the NACA 365 webinar as September 25th, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. And I just have that it's horticulture climate trends was the general topic. I don't have the speaker information in front of me right now.
Could you please say the times again? September the 5th.
September 25th, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
And I'm trying to put that in the chat too. Okay.
And we might have to check. I don't remember, had Linda made a recommendation of that presenter? I don't remember who.
Yeah, I
had
think
that.
so. And like I said,
Handling that, I can't remember exactly who that person was.
yeah, I have it. I just didn't prepare very well to talk about today. Okay, so as you continue to think about goals for our committee next year, we also need to think about things that we would like to see, and some of these kind of overlap. Things that we want to see take place at the AMPIC next year. So we mentioned the pre-tour. We have gotten some suggestions from a specialist in Montana about the Yellowstone Arboretum that's at the Montana Zoo. Seems to be a lot of community gardens and garden centers in Billings. There's a Montana Native Plant Society that has garden centers and nurseries that showcase native plants. And then depending if we fly into some other place, she mentioned the Tongue River Winery in Mills City. So anyway, I don't know if any of you are real familiar with Montana, but if you know of some places that we should go, or if you have a strong feeling about flying into one place and ending in Billings, or starting in Billings and ending in Billings, we can entertain that now.
And Cindy, I did research a little bit, and it seems like prices are comparable flying into both places. So I don't think it would be a significant increase, if people flew into one and flew out of another there.
Good to know.
There is a Audubon Center in both Billings and Bozeman, so might be an opportunity for, wetland plants and birds, of course, with that as well. And I've made a list, which I don't need to share here, but as you mentioned, there's a number of greenhouses, garden centers in Billings and Bozeman. There's an aquaponics location that does tours in Billings. It looks like there's a lot of opportunities. Obviously, we have got to connect with the Montana folks and find out what they're doing, what they might be going to on tour days, because we always try not to go to something that people are going to on tour days.
And thanks to JJ, he says our speaker is Pam Knox, and that's exactly who it is. And it's in
It
the
is.
in the
It is.
chat.
Forgot that.
Yes, that is the right name. Why we couldn't think of that, who knows?
So JJ, if you would like to chime in and introduce yourself, and if you also, we just had a council meeting. Did I hear you say that pre-tours were also going to be limited? And if that was something I heard, can you tell me more about that?
No, pre-tours are not limited.
Okay.
Super seminars will be limited. So it's just the pre-tour. No, the super seminars and possibly presentations, where y'all got 13 in this time. It may be a little more challenging because we got to remember Montana doesn't have a convention center, so we're doing this in a hotel, and so it's and I have not visited these places yet. We got to get through Dallas first, so then we'll start looking at Montana. But yeah, we probably have to. My goal is to try to keep it at 10 a minimum. Presentations per committee. That's 110 presentations. So, but again, that'll be whoever gets elected vice president's issue. And I don't want to. I'm going to stay in my lane. So, but that's the goal. But no, the pre-tours, y'all are open to do whatever you are. I think y'all are on the right track as far as, you want to pay attention to cost as far as flying into one or the other and transportation getting back and forth. So what Animal Science had a problem with, and I'll just make you aware of this. Of course, they wanted to fly into Amarillo. There are no bus companies in Amarillo. The bus company that we're using is not in Amarillo. And so the cost to get the bus to Amarillo so they could use it was prohibitive. And so they rented vans, which again doesn't make people very happy to ride 12 people crowded to a van. So I'm, but yeah, and I'll tell you, y'all flower people, y'all can do what y'all want to. You notice I got a beef cow behind me. So, so it's, no, I'm not giving you all the time, but no, but y'all can, you can do it the way you want to, but that's something I would stay cognizant of. It's just, of the cost and stuff we could do and all that. So.
And I don't know if you want to chime in or if this is a Scott thing, but I mean, what do we think our numbers will be in Montana? Do we think that they'll be?
I think they'll be huge. I think at least the feeling that I get around the people, most of the agents and educators that I'm around, they are not going to Dallas to save money to go to Montana. Because the way it falls, if you think about it, Montana and Dallas are in the same fiscal year. And so you usually don't have enough travel dollars to go to 2 national meetings. And so that's at least here in Oklahoma, that is an issue we've got. And even the fact that it's in Dallas, and transportation is not a big deal for us. We're driving, but it's still, they'll be out of travel dollars by next June if they go to both of them.
That's not as big an issue for us in North Carolina because of our cutoff dates. It'll be in the next billings will be in the next fiscal year. It'll be charged in the next fiscal year.
So I worked in Tennessee too, so I know it's different for every state, but they're running into that and stuff like that. But it's my feeling is this, and people just talking, they're excited about going to Montana. So
I know my whole family, so yeah, and it's close to 4th of July, so our plan is to kind of make it out west, right? We're gonna make a trip out of it because we don't get west very often in Ohio, so
right. Danny and I are trying to book our rooms before Heather and her family does.
Yeah.
Well, I've already told the wife. I already told the wife. I said I don't care if it's a week before or a week after. We're staying either going early or staying late, one of the two. So. And
with the horticulture pre-tour, we may be going early and staying late, both. Okay, well that yeah, because I was thinking maybe so we do have a bus this year. The buses are very expensive. I assume buses will be very expensive in Montana also, plus the issue of, you know, can you use a bus if you only have one company and blah, blah, blah. But, I did wonder if we would go back to vans next year. But
Well, we're
anyway,
used
it's
to it.
something to
We
think
did it
about.
in Florida and in Iowa, so we
Yeah,
did
I think it
vans.
really depends on the numbers. I mean, if you have more like, you know, 15-ish, although I know that Animal Science has a huge group and they have many vans and many cars. So, you know, you can make it work if you really want to make it work. So,
Oh yeah, it's just one of them deals. They didn't think about that part of it, and what what happens. They run out of people to drive the vans, and so they limited the number of people. So now that's the reason why we got people driving trucks and following them. So it's just one of them things. But it's just something that, you know, you don't think about it till it's here. So it's and and you're right. And I don't know, would they have not started looking at bus contracts yet? Um, and there could be a problem as far as just number of bus availability in Montana. So it's something to be aware of. But again, we're all extensions that are, you know, I think our motto is improvise, overcome, and adapt. So, and we're all very good at making it work. So
yeah.
if we weren't very good at making it work, we wouldn't be doing this job. So it's,
Um, so yes, we thought we had adapted well in budget planning of this year. We are super happy to have a new sponsor. Bear Crop Science is sponsoring our horticulture pre-tour. We get $1,000 from the Professional Improvement Council. I hosted a tour through Third Tours, and that money that was made through that went to the horticulture pre-tour. So we're doing that again with Danny hosting a trip to Ireland. The downside, and I was hoping Linda was going to be on the call today, is that we did lose Bartlett as a sponsor for our super seminar this year. They said that they just could not do it. So she indicated to me that she was still willing to reach out to them next year. She won't be on our committee anymore. So I'm sure she's not planning on making a lot of effort perhaps on it because she has other things to do. But we would love to get our super seminar sponsor back or a new sponsor. So if you know of somebody that could help us with that, or any type of sponsorship for the pre-tour or anything else that we might think might need money in the future, please let our committee know. Okay. So from our council meeting today, Sherry, our council chair, asked if you saw any issues that you thought that we should let the board know, or any changes or any type of board action, and to be as specific as possible for those. So Jenny, I have some recommendations down at the bottom of our Google minutes that we're keeping. So I brought this up for the meeting we had this morning about just specific deadlines, just to help us prepare a little bit better. This year we did have some communication with Dallas to help us kind of start the pre-tour. But in March, they no longer were willing to help us. So Danny, myself, Heather, and Jenny planned the tour from North Carolina, Maryland, and Ohio. So if we could have somebody designated early on to help with the pre-tours, I know that the person who was helping us wasn't in the Dallas area. And we do appreciate her getting us off to a good start. But I really, really, really don't know anything about Montana. So, I would love to have, somebody early on committed to helping us, to organize that. But is there any other issues or changes or things that we would like the board to think about? I'll bring up Linda's. Linda sometimes doesn't feel like our abstract rubrics fits very well with some of our horticulture topics. Some things that might seem very interesting as a presentation isn't necessarily perhaps researched based with impacts and things like that. So I know that is something that she has brought up in the past. Does that rubric work truly for all different committees, I would say. What other issues,
So
changes?
can I stop you right there for just a second? Just because
Sure.
I got a question, because I've, been on several committees done throughout this long time. And I guess it was my understanding when I was on the committees and doing and picking presentations, we had a rubric or whatever, but I use it as a guideline. Each committee has the right to choose the presentations based on whatever they want to choose them for. You don't have to use that specifically. Was y'all told that you had to, or just?
I got the impression from Sherry that she thought that would be the best way since we were so limited. So she did send that email to me several times, to all of the committee chairs about making sure to use our rubric.
What I guess the way I took it, and I was on those emails as well, and the way I took it was we get accused of accepting every presentation that gets handed, and we have some committees that do. I mean, I kid you not. I have one committee, they had 12 presentations, they accepted all 12, and I said no, through Sherry said no, go back. And so what we were wanting to do is, this is going to sound bad. We be picky, but particular. Not just this is not a participation award, and so that's the reason why we talk about using the rubric. But I really, truthfully, I think what she meant, the way I took it, is just choose them, but choose the best ones, and just have some system. That way, if one of the presentation people came to the board and said, "Why didn't I get picked?" then I can go back and say, "Well, there's the rubric." You see what I'm saying? It's kind of CYA type stuff, but I don't think you had to use exactly. I think that was more as a template as it was anything else. So I apologize if y'all felt like it was, but no,
Well,
you can make
our
use
world for next year.
You can use any rubric you want. Just come up with a way, some way of choosing what y'all want to choose.
But
and again,
it is helpful when we're like more restricted in numbers to use the rubric, I think, to weed out people who don't really put much effort, into their abstract. I mean, that's pretty obvious. You don't even need a rubric to tell who's put the effort in and who did it in the last 30 minutes of the day when it was due, right? So
right. Like I said, we just, it's just one of them things that, and as far as administration goes, we get criticized all the time by administration that we're, that it's not a true, but now I'm not a researcher and I don't agree with everything PhDs say or, believe, but I do believe that we do have to have some form, just again, I'm not a big participation trophy guy. Okay. To me, I think you need to earn what you do. And so,
yeah,
I'm also competitive. I'm also competitive. I want to beat somebody.
Right. And I think I like the rubric because I mean, it's kind of the standard, like how you write a success story in extension. You've got to state, a problem, how you thought you were going to address that problem, what steps you actually took, and then what were the results, of that. But I know Cindy's what Cindy's saying that I think Linda's referring to is a good point, because there are some things that are just kind of maybe like research topics or presentation, not physical research, but like you're researching a topic and sharing information from, almost like a literature search, and Linda's on now, so she could tell us more about that. I think that might be some of it that the rubric cuts out, because you don't
I
have
think
the typical plan. What's the problem? How are you going to address it? And then what are the results?
Yeah, and I think Danny's got that just right. And the disconnect that I see that's really frustrating, it has been frustrating for me personally, is that our journal publishes not just experimental research, but case studies and literature reviews and all kinds of things that are valuable to members. But the way that the rubric's constructed, when I've gone through and tried to do, my literature review on some topic, I've had to really work hard to even get it to be accepted, not because it's not valuable, not because I don't spend a lot of time doing it, because I do, but because it doesn't fit the mold of having experimental results and, outcomes and all that kind of stuff, which of course, I can, we all do that too, but there is a value, especially for a lot of our membership who aren't experts in a particular area, but do get questions, to provide them with a review of pertinent literature on some really popular topic. And not just in horticulture, but anything in extension.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I guess the way I took it is, here's an example rubric, but use something that your committee feels like it's plausible for your, because I agree with you, Linda. So there's a lot of things, and I've gave presentations over just programming that I've done. It's really not research. It's just, here's a program I put on, here's the problem, here's the program, and here's the impacts that I had. And that's not research, not even close. So, but I think y'all can develop your own. I just think the thing is just have something that you're deciding on, not just, well, I like Cindy, but I don't like Danny's. You see what I'm saying? Not to start a fight at home, but okay. But you see what I'm saying? So that's the approach I would take, Cindy.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Anybody else like to comment, or ideas or goals that you think we should be doing? Or anything you want to share with the council chair?
I definitely think we should continue, if we can, do our webinar on the pre-tour. Because as you said, I think that helped get our numbers up some this year anyway.
Okay, so a webinar on the pre-tour and how to do an abstract. So when would abstracts be due, do you think, JJ, for next year? Oh, it's always March 15th, right?
It's always March. Yeah, it's always March 15th.
Okay. Yep. So we would want to do maybe in February, if possible, that one.
Yeah, I just warned you, and let me pull up, see how many we had in February last time. Yeah, there was only one slot taken in February. There's only 2 slots a month, so that's the thing to be careful about. Yeah, I would do it January, February, but the thing is, you do it too early January, they're not thinking about it. Danny's right. They're waiting until March the 14th to start to write anything. So.
And then, when is the meeting next year?
So last week of June. It wraps up on July 3rd.
So
or July 2nd.
When do you think registration would start for that meeting?
That's a Scott Hallbaker question, because I'll get that one wrong. And he's probably not listening to us. I'm guessing it's pretty close to the same time frame as what it did for this time around, maybe just a touch earlier.
Okay, and when?
Because this one started May.
Okay.
Trying to think. Let me go back and see when I got my registration.
Maybe April is when we want to do the
Scott put a post in the chat, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
April 1st to May 15th.
April 1st. So that would mean maybe March would be the best time for the horticulture pre-tour webinar.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Anything anybody wants to share?
Also, I guess what my question is, and again, I think there's more than just me this affects, is this committee going to then modify the rubric so that it can consider things that are, you know, scientific reviews of a literature topic that's relevant, obviously, to our committee, you know, so that it's not difficult to try to get those things accepted.
I think it's something our committee will discuss. I don't know if that's the answer you want to hear, but I do think we will definitely discuss it, Linda.
Okay. And I'll say, just for new committee members and those that aren't at these meetings, when I do these things, they're very popular. I get a lot of people in there. And I get a lot of emails afterwards thanking me, you know, for bringing the science to these topics. You know, they're working with Master Gardener volunteers and other people, and a lot of people that are, you know, county agents or directors or whatever, that have to kind of cover everything, just don't have the resources. And I think that we can provide that. I think all the PICs should do this, frankly, but, you know, I'm just worried about hours.
I think it's worth the discussion, and I think that's something we can. Because I
Okay.
agree, there's some of those things that are just not always fit, but if we can modify the rubric, I just think as long as we modify it consistently as it relates to something, then those are the little semantics you have to iron out, right?
You know, so even if it wasn't like huge point numbers, you know, we could always take out, you know, the punctuation is good. You know, we could change that to, you know, this topic is unique or interesting, or you know what I mean?
Or timely, like
Yeah,
it's
or
something that
timely,
everybody's-
or what,
that
yeah,
everyone's
whatever it
got,
might
no
be.
matter where you are.
Right. You know, so, you know, some of those things that were in the rubrics aren't like, you know, real, whatever, meat holding type of things. And we could add that in. So,
The only
That sounds
suggestion
good.
I have is just you have a minimum score they have to meet before you accept them.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not too concerned about the materials, you know, and content, because y'all know more what y'all's, you know, people are wanting to listen to. I wouldn't dare tell a horticulture person what they need to listen to. But as again, I just think you just don't accept them all. Make sure there's a minimum standard met. So.
Yeah, and JJ, I agree. I think the problem has been is that, for instance, the sections about, you know, if results and how things are implemented is a huge point section. And if you're giving a review of literature, there's not you don't have results. It's not an experimental process. And so you automatically lose like 20 points right there. Not because it's not a good topic, not because it's not well written, not because it's not topical, but because it doesn't fit the mold of experimental research.
Yeah, so maybe you have it, you know, that, or, you know, the other thing that what you're talking about fits into. You see what I'm saying? You know,
Right,
have it, you know, that category is worth 20 points, but you either got to hit this mark or this mark. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And the only reason I'm kind of beating this into the ground is because I'm rolling off the committee and I won't be there to discuss it. So I just want to make sure that my concerns are out there.
well, Linda, it might have taken a few years, but I think we've gotten there.
I agree. And thank you for being persistent with that, Cindy. I really appreciate it.
Okay, well, I don't want to rush this, but I also don't want to keep you on if there's nothing more to say, so I'm just gonna be quiet for a few moments and open it up, and I'd love to hear some comments.
I would just ask JJ at this point, if you know yet, who might be best to reach out to with Montana to find out, who their committee chairs are and that type of thing, and so we can start making some connections, like related to planning a pre-tour.
So my suggestion is Shelley Mills is she's the AMPIC chair, and she will be in Dallas, and so and they're supposed to have quite a few Montanians in Dallas, so that's who I would, that's who I'd start off with. I'm like you, I know Shelley and about one or two the other Montanians, if that's what they want to be called, and that's it. That's all I know. So so I'm not even, I'm assuming they do have horticultural agents in there, up there, but I don't think I met any of them when I was up there. So
JJ, could you mention those names again, please?
Shelley Mills, she is the AMPIC chair for Montana. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure that's the right name, but let me. I'll check. Y'all go ahead and talk. I'm gonna check real quick. Just make sure I'm pretty sure that's it.
Scott says that is the right name, and he also put the or her email in the chat if you want to put that over it. Yeah, thanks, Jenny. You're getting it on there.
Like I said, I'd start with her and just be respective of her time and stuff too. But but I know she will be in Dallas, and have been told that they're going to have quite a few people in Dallas because they're supposed to shadow the Dallas people to figure out exactly what they're supposed to be doing. I'm glad Scott's paying attention because I don't trust my memory anymore.
We should be sure to invite Shelley to join us on our 360 pre-port tour.
Okay, anyone else? And then Scott also added that the co-chair is Patrick Mangan. So, it might be interesting to see, where they're located and stuff in relationship to Bozeman and Billings and things like that, and what their specialties might be.
Already looked at Shelley's and she's not near either one, and seems she has a lot of things listed on her her member profile on the NACA website: 4-H and youth, crops, general ag, horticulture, IPM, livestock, and natural resources. So she must do it all.
He does it all. Well,
Yeah,
That is one thing about Montana.
I think you're gonna find that that's the case in all Montanas. They do it all. So
Okay,
Cindy,
well,
I did
Oh.
see, I will say, I did see when I was looking at potential stops, ideas for Bozeman, I did see that's, I guess, Gallatin County, that there's that on Google Maps, they have a Gallatin County, Montana State University Extension Plant Clinic listed, so there must be a horticulture agent there.
Sounds good. Okay, if there is nothing else, Scott, I was wondering if we could close this meeting, but maybe if my committee could just stay on for a couple moments. I just wanted to finalize some Dallas stuff. Would that be possible?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure, I'll stop recording and then you can close it.
okay.
all right, guys, I'll let y'all
Okay,
to it.
thank
Then
you, JJ, and
we'll
thanks
see-
everybody
see y'all in
who
Dallas.
joined us. And if you have any comments or just let us know.